Times are tough right now for South Carolina, and things only got tougher on Wednesday night as the Gamecocks lost in heartbreaking fashion 70-69 in a near upset of number 5 Florida in a game that, let's be honest, South Carolina played pretty well, all things considered. They didn't trail. They were in front or tied for 39 minutes of this game, but the final 4 seconds is where things kind of went awry for the Gamecocks as Florida recaptured the lead on a Will Richard go-ahead layup to take the lead for the rest of the game with 4 seconds left to go, as I said, and that was the ball game. And South Carolina is now 0-6 in conference play, tied for their worst start to begin SEC play since 2014, and if they lose to Mississippi State on Saturday, it'll be their worst start to conference play in program history. But the story of tonight was what Florida did in the second half to change the course of this game. South Carolina was up by as much as 14 points midway through the second half, and that's when Florida pulled out all the stops. They decided to go with the press defense, which really had a massive impact on the trajectory of this game and how everything changed for the Gators, ultimately being able to pull off this win. In the first half, South Carolina only had 3 turnovers, and keep that number in mind because they played really clean basketball in the first half. They were playing aggressive. They came out flying all over the court. Really solid defense, making every shot. Florida took a tough one, and the Gamecocks were on a 9-0 run and up by 10. And then they took the lead going into halftime, and they were feeling pretty good. And then they played pretty solid in the second half. But again, the difference was when Florida brought out the press, the turnovers started racking up for South Carolina. Again, as I mentioned before, they had 3 in the first half, 12 in the second half. 9 of those turnovers, get this, came in the final 8 minutes and 45 seconds of this game. That's nearly a turnover per minute. And when you're turning over the ball as much as this team does, we've seen it. I mean, the Vanderbilt game, they had 25 turnovers. And it seems to be a common trend at this point where they're racking up double-digit turnovers. The key thing that we have to point out in all this is teams are taking advantage of those mistakes. Florida got a lot of easy, cheap, quick buckets tonight, going up for easy layups, a lot of fast break, uncontested shots that allowed them to get back into this game. And Florida finished with 22 points off those turnovers, a common trend we're seeing in these close losses where South Carolina loses to Auburn and they lose to Vanderbilt by 3 points. And now this is another game that they totally should have won. There's no way around it. They played well enough to win the game. But once Florida brought out that trap and that press to really force every inbound pass that South Carolina had, it became a tough thing to do just to get the ball up to midcourt. And there were a lot of possessions where South Carolina was inbounding the ball to its guards and the ball would be stripped away. And Jacoby Wright was on the wrong end of a few of those in the final minutes, which allowed Florida to eventually tie the game. And then Richard gets the go-ahead bucket, and that was the game. And it's tough because, like I said, the Gamecocks played pretty well. Zach Davis had a career-high 22 points tonight. Really solid second half performance for him. Without him, I don't think the Gamecocks are having the chance to win this game with him stepping up, because Colin Murray-Boyles, for as well as he played in the first half, he still had a good game, but it wasn't the same effectiveness from a point standpoint, because he ended up having 8 assists, which is a really good number for him. But the thing with Davis was, for as well as he played at times, as many key shots as he hit, he also had 6 turnovers in this game, and a lot of them came down the stretch, and that is where the problems are for South Carolina. But it's not just the turnovers. It's also another thing that will probably not be looked at as heavily because of the turnovers. It's the missed free throws. And these are all common things that South Carolina continues to struggle with in these games that they should win, but they end up losing. They went 4 for 8 at the free throw line tonight, and when you lose by 1 point, I mean, shoot, Zach Davis missed went 1 of 2 at the line in the final seconds, and it gave South Carolina the lead. But in hindsight, you could have had a 2-point lead, and maybe that makes a difference. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's another rough loss for this team. They, like I said before, 0-6 to start conference play. one game above 500 right now. You're barely above water, but once after the new year started, it's been trending downhill for this team right now, and things only get tougher on Saturday when you got number 14 Mississippi State, a team that beat you by 35 points to open SEC play back on January 4th in Starkville. They come to town on Saturday, and it's going to be a lot of the same style basketball that Florida played tonight. Again, it's the aggressiveness, it's the ability to create mistakes, and South Carolina has got to turn the page rather quickly here and get ready. So that game is at 1 p.m. on SEC Network, right behind me here at Colonial Life Arena on Saturday afternoon. I'll be back here bringing you all live coverage and updates, but before then, tomorrow we'll do GC Live at the buzzer at 10:30 a.m. We're going to break down this game. We're going to talk some women's hoops too to get ready for South Carolina versus LSU on Friday in a top 5 matchup here at CLA. And yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about. So be sure to stay locked into GamecockCentral.com for all live updates and coverage as this basketball season continues. For GamecockCentral.com, I'm Jack Veltri.